Riemann Galactic General Sci-Fi let out a dismissive laugh in response to proposals to seek aid from Earth's primitive humans. Ha! Those apes just discovered slip-space travel, and now you want them saving us against the dreaded Voidbringer threat? But deep down, a sliver of self-doubt wormed into the alien's mind. Could the humans really turn the tide against an enemy slaughtering its way across the stars? The Galactic Council convened for an urgent meeting, a terse affair around a rounded holotable. Representatives from the 12 known spacefaring species stared at flickering red icons, each a colony world burned by the marauding Voidbringers. Conventional fleets and armies crumpled against their ruthless blitzkrieg. Refugees clogged shipping lanes. Trillions cried out for salvation against an implacable foe. Defeat seemed inevitable, unless... The humans. We need human support, a wizened Centauri Chancellor croaked. Emergency Provision 251X allows client species to join Council security forces in times of existential peril. General Sci-Fi bristled with barely contained rage. Humans? An uncontrolled client species? Absolutely not. What could those primitives do that our own combined forces cannot? Zephryon raised a slender hand, scales glinting under the light. The humans are unpredictable, unorthodox. They may yet hold the key to our survival. I propose a diplomatic mission to request aid from their homeworld. A partnership to save our collective people. Sci-Fi ground sharpened teeth, but the desperate council voted. The decision was made. Now came the hard part, convincing the savage Terrans to unite and face the onrushing darkness, or watch the galaxy burn. As the Galactic Council's decision reverberated through the stars, Captain Sean Reyes received his orders. He was to lead a hand-picked team of 12 elite soldiers and their genetically engineered canine companions on a crucial mission to aid the besieged Zephyrian colony of Alara Prime. The fate of the galaxy rested on their shoulders. Sean and his team boarded the sleek IDF spacecraft Valiant, its engines humming with barely contained power. As they set course for Alara Prime, Sean pored over the scant intelligence reports on the Voidbringers. The insectoid race utilized massive, organic-looking ships and wielded devastating energy weapons. Their technology far surpassed anything the Galactic Council had encountered before. The Valiant hurtled through slipspace, rapidly approaching its destination. Suddenly, a distress signal from Alara Prime crackled through the comms. The Voidbringers had begun their assault. Time was running out. Sean barked orders to his team. They quickly donned their advanced combat exoskeletons, the cutting-edge tech enhancing their strength, speed, and durability to superhuman levels. The soldiers checked their weapons, a mix of high-powered rifles and specialized energy pistols as they prepared to deploy. Light years away, General Sci-Fi watched the humans' preparations via a live feed. He scoffed at the primitive canines accompanying the soldiers, seeing them as a sign of the humans' backwardness. The alien general remained skeptical that these upstart Terrans could make any difference against the Voidbringer onslaught. As the Valiant pierced Alara Prime's atmosphere, Sean and his team loaded into drop pods, their loyal canine partners at their sides. With a series of thuds, the pods launched towards the besieged colony below. The pods slammed into the ground, kicking up clouds of dust. Sean and his soldiers emerged, weapons at the ready, to a scene of chaos. A swarm of Voidbringer drones, each the size of a small car and bristling with razor-sharp appendages and energy projectors, bore down on the colony's defenses. Without hesitation, Sean and his team engaged the drones in fierce combat. Their exoskeletons allowed them to move with incredible agility, dodging the drones' attacks while returning fire with their advanced weapons. The soldiers worked in perfect unison, covering each other's blind spots and slowly pushing the Voidbringers back. To Sci-Fi's surprise, the genetically engineered dogs proved invaluable in the battle. Their enhanced senses allowed them to detect drones that the humans might have missed, while their agility and strength let them tackle and neutralize the alien machines. The canines worked seamlessly with their human partners, forming an unbeatable team. As the battle raged on, Sean and his soldiers gained ground inch by bloody inch. The Voidbringer drones fell before their relentless assault, the colony's perimeter slowly being secured. But the fight was far from over. As Sean and his team fought valiantly on Elara Prime, Sean's helmet comms crackled. Kael'thar's panicked voice burst through. "Captain Reyes, Thaxis colony is under heavy attack. Voidbringer forces are overwhelming the Remans. Even General Sci-Fi is barely holding them off. We need immediate support or the colony will fall." Sean gritted his teeth. Losing Thaxis would be a devastating blow. He opened a channel to Lieutenant Chen. "Chen, you're in command here. I'm taking Thompson, Lee, Ramirez and their dogs to reinforce Thaxis. Keep pushing these bugs back." "Yes, sir," Chen replied, her rifle spitting plasma at the drones. Sean rallied his chosen few. They sprinted to a dropship, dodging energy blasts and insectoid bodies. As the ship screamed through the atmosphere, Sean prayed they weren't too late. Thaxis was a war zone. Voidbringer ships darkened the skies like a plague of locusts, disgorging hordes of drones onto the battered colony. Reman soldiers fought desperately in the streets, their purple blood mixing with the ichor of slain Voidbringers. The dropship hatch burst open. Sean and his team leapt out, weapons blazing. Their exoskeletons propelled them forward with inhuman speed, cutting a swath through the alien ranks. Plasma rifles flashed. Drones exploded into gouts of viscous liquid. At the front, a towering figure in crimson armor bellowed orders. General Sci-Fi fought like a demon, his wrist blades slicing drones apart. But Sean could see he was being overwhelmed. A pack of drones scuttled behind the general, seeking a chink in his armor. Corporal Ramirez saw it too. "Riggs, intercept!" The augmented dog shot forward like a missile, smashing into the lead drone. Riggs ripped at the monster, with savage efficiency, his titanium teeth finding vital organs. The other drones turned to the new threat, only to be cut down by Ramirez's expert shots. Sci-Fi whirled, mandibles agape in shock. His four eyes narrowed as Riggs trotted back to Ramirez, synthetic blood dripping from its jaws. The general seemed torn between gratitude and disgust. Sean had no time to dwell on it. He charged into the fray, his team close behind. They had a colony to save. As the battle on Thaxis raged on, Sean and Sci-Fi fought side by side, their combined efforts turning the tide against the Voidbringer ground forces. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Insectoid bodies thudded to the ground. The human and Reman soldiers pushed forward, step by bloody step, driving the Voidbringers back. In a brief lull amidst the chaotic melee, Sci-Fi turned to Sean. The general's four eyes blinked, his mandibles twitching. "Captain Reyes, I must express my gratitude for your team's assistance. It seems I may have underestimated your capabilities." Sean nodded, wiping sweat and grime from his brow. "We're all in this together, General. The only way we'll beat these bastards is by working as one." Sci-Fi clicked his mandibles in agreement. "Indeed, we must develop a strategy to push back the Voidbringers and protect the remaining colonies, our forces, united." "Agreed, let's get planning." The two commanders huddled together, their respective soldiers providing cover. They pored over holomaps of Thaxis and the surrounding systems, searching for weaknesses to exploit. Suddenly Sean's comms crackled. Lieutenant Chen's voice burst through, strained and exhausted. "Captain, Elara Prime is secure. Voidbringer attack repelled. But we took casualties. Jenkins, Nakamura, their dogs. Colony's in bad shape too. Lot of damage. Requesting further orders, sir." Sean closed his eyes for a moment. Grief and weariness etched on his face. He keyed his mic. "Understood, Lieutenant. You and the team are to remain on Elara Prime. Aid with recovery efforts. The fight continues here. Reyes out." As the link went dead, Sean turned back to Sci-Fi. The Raymond general studied him with inscrutable eyes. "The burden of command is heavy, Captain, but we must press on." Sean nodded grimly. They returned to their strategy, plotting counterattacks and troop deployments with renewed urgency. The battle for Thaxis was far from over. Just as they began to implement their plan, a new transmission came through. Kael'thar's image formed above Sean's wrist projector. The Zephyrian scales shimmered with agitation. Captain Reyes, General Sci-Fi. Dire news. The Galactic Council has received intelligence indicating the Voidbringers plan a massive attack on our headquarters on Nexus. They mean to cripple us, sow chaos amongst the allied species. You must gather your forces and come to Nexus at once. The fate of the galaxy may depend on it. Sean and Sci-Fi exchanged a loaded glance. The weight of the request hung heavy in the air. Understood, Counselor, Sean replied. We'll finish up here and make for Nexus with all haste. As Kelthar's image winked out, the two commanders began barking orders to their troops. The battle for Thaxis had to be won, and quickly. The very heart of galactic civilization was at stake. Sean gripped his rifle tight. Sci-Fi flexed his wrist blades. Around them, human and Riemann soldiers steeled themselves for the fight to come. On Nexus, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the course of history, and Earth's champions would be there to meet it head-on. The Valiant shuddered as another volley of Voidbringer plasma slammed into its shields. On the bridge, Sean gripped the command chair, his jaw clenched. They were still hours from Nexus when the ambush hit, catching the Allied fleet completely off guard. Evasive maneuvers, Sean barked. Divert power to forward shields. The ship lurched as it veered away from the incoming fire. On the viewscreen, Sean watched in horror as a human frigate, its hull breached, spun out of control before erupting in a silent fireball. Beside him, Sci-Fi snarled orders into the Riemann battle net. All ships defensive formation Kappa 3. Concentrate fire on the lead Voidbringer cruiser. The deck shook again, more violently this time. Alarms blared. Sean's eyes widened as he read the damage report scrolling across his display. Hull breach deck 7. Voidbringer boarders in the starboard hangar bay. Sean unclipped his rifle and turned to his soldiers. Thompson, Lee, with me. The rest of you repel those bastards. Don't let them take the ship. Max, Sean's loyal canine companion, bounded to his feet, ready for action. The trio raced to the hangar, the sound of plasma fire and inhuman screeches growing louder with each step. They burst into the bay to find a scene of chaos. Voidbringer shock troopers, their insectoid bodies encased in gleaming black armor, advanced on the beleaguered human defenders. Energy beams crisscrossed the space, painting the walls in scorch marks. Open fire, Sean roared. He, Thompson, and Lee charged forward, their exoskeletons propelling them into the fray. Max sprinted ahead, a blur of fur and cybernetics, leaping at the nearest Voidbringer with a snarl. They fought with desperate fury, rifles flashing, fists and feet smashing into chitinous plates. Max was a whirlwind of fangs and claws, ripping into the aliens with savage efficiency. But the Voidbringers kept coming, heedless of their losses. One towered over Sean, its wrist blaster glowing with deadly energy. Time seemed to slow. Sean knew he couldn't dodge in time. A flash of movement, a yelp of pain. Max leapt, intercepting the blast meant for Sean. The dog crumpled, his body smoking. White-hot rage surged through him. He lunged at the Voidbringer, rifle forgotten, attacking with nothing but his armored fists. Bones shattered, ichor splattered. The alien fell. Its carapace caved in. Sean dropped to his knees beside Max. The dog whimpered softly, his flank a ruined mess of blood and burnt fur. No, 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 stay with me, buddy, stay with me. A heavy hand fell on Sean's shoulder. Sire Father. The Riemann's face was grim, his armor spattered with Voidbringer blood. Captain Reyes, we must keep moving. The ship. He's dying, Sean choked out. Max, he saved me. Something flickered in Sire Father's eyes, an emotion Sean couldn't place. The Riemann knelt, producing a small glowing device from his belt. Her stasis pod, Sire Father explained, voice gruff. It will preserve him until we reach Nexus. You have earned this, Captain, both of you. Gently, almost reverently, Sire Father placed Max's broken body into the pod. It sealed with a hiss, the dog's shallow breathing slowing to a barely perceptible rhythm. Sean swallowed hard, blinking back tears. He met Sire Father's gaze. Thank you, General, I won't forget this. Sire Father nodded solemnly. Then he was all business once more. Come, Captain, we have a battle to win. They pushed the Voidbringers back, meter by bloody meter, until the boarding craft detached, fleeing back to their waiting ships. Sean sagged against a bulkhead, exhausted, Max's pod cradled in his arms. The Valiant limped on, its escorts reduced to a scant handful of battered ships. In the bridge, Sean and Sci-Fi surveyed the damage, the losses. The once mighty fleet was a shadow of itself. Reaching Nexus in time seemed an impossible dream. Sci-Fi's fists clenched and unclenched. We must split the fleet. Take the Valiant and the fastest ships. I will command the rest, the ones in no shape for a race. You push on ahead to Nexus. Sean started to protest, but the hard light in Sci-Fi's eyes stopped him. The Rayman was right, they had no choice. Every second mattered. Understood, General. We'll hold the line until you arrive. Fight well, Captain Reyes, for all our sakes. The Valiant and its small escort broke away, engines straining as they accelerated to maximum burn. On the bridge, Sean stared into the starry void, one hand resting on Max's pod. Sean's heart pounded as the Valiant burst out of slipspace, Nexus looming before them. His breath caught in his throat. They were too late. Voidbringer ships swarmed the planet like locusts, pummeling the orbital defenses with relentless plasma fire. Explosions bloomed across the nightside, each one representing countless lives snuffed out. The Valiant surged forward, its human Riemann hybrid engines propelling it at incredible speeds. The smaller escort ships followed suit, weaving through the Voidbringer formations with dizzying agility. Sean watched as a human frigate unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds, the projectiles ripping through a Voidbringer cruiser's organic hull. The alien ship listed, spilling atmosphere and bodies into the void. But the Voidbringers adapted quickly. Their ships began to concentrate fire on the human vessels, seeking to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. "Sir, we're being hailed from the surface," the Comem's officer reported. "It's Councillor Kelthar." "Put him through." The Zephyrian's holographic form shimmered to life, his scales dull with exhaustion. "Captain Reyes, thank the stars you've arrived. The Council is evacuating to a secure bunker, but Voidbringer ground forces are closing in. We need your help." Sean's jaw tightened. He glanced at Max's stasis pod, the dog's life still hanging by a thread. Then he turned to Thompson and Lee. "Suit up. We're going down there." Minutes later, they were crammed into a drop pod, their armored bodies jostling as the pod shook around them. Sean clutched his rifle tight, the weapon already slick with sweat. The pod slammed into the ground, the impact reverberating through Sean's bones. The hatch blew open, revealing a hellscape of smoke and plasma fire. Voidbringer shock troopers swarmed the landing site, their insectoid bodies bristling with cruel blades and crackling energy weapons. Sean and his team charged forward, rifles spitting death. Sean's exoskeleton propelled him at breakneck speeds, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge the worst of the alien fire. He slammed into a Voidbringer drone, crushing its carapace with a sickening crunch. Beside him, Thompson and Lee fought with equal ferocity, their canine partners, a German shepherd named Maverick and a Rottweiler called Axe, ripping into the aliens with fang and claw. They pushed deeper into the city, the towering spires of the Council headquarters looming ahead. Kelthar's voice crackled over the comms, urging them onwards. Then Sean saw it, a massive Voidbringer construct, a nightmarish fusion of flesh and metal. It stood as tall as a building, armed with devastating energy cannons, and it was turning to face the Council's evacuation point. "We have to take that thing down," Sean roared. Thompson nodded grimly. "Flank it, hit it from both sides." Before Sean could protest, Lee and Axe were moving, sprinting directly at the war machine. The construct swiveled, its cannons already beginning to glow. Sean and Thompson didn't hesitate. They split up, circling around the monstrosity, seeking any weakness in its armored hide. Plasma bolts rained down around Lee, the ground exploding into molten glass. But he and Axe kept going, their exoskeletons propelling them forward, even as the heat seared their armor. The war machine's cannon reached full charge. the air thrumming with barely contained energy. It started to turn, seeking the council members once more. Jean saw his chance, a pulsing weak point at the construct's rear. He raised his rifle, pouring all his fear and desperation into the shot. The plasma round struck true. The war machine staggered, sparks cascading from the wound. Thompson joined in, his shots ripping into the exposed machinery. With a final shuddering groan, the Voidbringer construct collapsed, its massive body crashing to the ground in a shower of debris and ichor. But the victory was short-lived. As the dust settled, Sean saw Lee and Axe lying broken and still, their bodies charred by the alien onslaught. He rushed to their side, his heart in his throat. Lee's eyes fluttered open, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Did we do it? Are they safe? Jean clasped the soldier's hand, fighting back tears. Yeah, we did it, you did it. A smile ghosted across Lee's lips. Then his eyes slid shut, his body going limp. Jean bowed his head, grief and rage warring in his heart. He gently lifted Axe's lifeless form, cradling the loyal dog against his chest. There would be time to mourn later, time to honor their sacrifice, but now the fight still called. The Voidbringers still swarmed the city, and the council was not yet safe. Jean and Thompson stood, their faces grim with renewed determination. They had lost friends today, brothers in arms, but they would not let that loss be in vain. Together they pressed on, weapons at the ready, hearts steeled for the battle to come. Smoke and plasma fire filled the air as Sean and Sergeant Thompson fought their way through the rubble-strewn streets. The council's evacuation point lay just ahead, but the Voidbringer forces were relentless, their insectoid bodies swarming over the shattered cityscape. As they neared the evac zone, Sean's heart sank. Kael'thar and the other council members were pinned down, unable to reach their escape ships. Voidbringer shock troopers poured plasma fire into their position, the air crackling with deadly energy. Sean's mind raced, analyzing the battlefield. He turned to Thompson, his voice firm. "Sarge, I need you to lay down covering fire. Keep those bugs off me while I get the council out." Thompson nodded, his face grim. "You got it, Cap. Raven and I will hold the line." Sean charged forward, his exoskeleton servos whining with the effort. He reached the first group of council members, their faces etched with fear. "Follow me. Stay close." Using his enhanced strength, Sean cleared a path through the debris, his armored fist smashing through concrete and steel. The council members followed, their robes billowing in the wind. Behind them, Thompson and Raven fought like demons. The sergeant's rifle barked, each shot finding its mark in Voidbringer flesh. Raven, a blur of fur and cybernetics, tore into the aliens with fang and claw. But the Voidbringers kept coming, heedless of their losses. A group of shock troopers broke through Thompson's kill zone, their wrist blades glinting in the harsh light. Thompson met them head-on, his rifle forgotten. He grappled with the lead trooper, servos straining against alien muscle. Raven leapt at another, his jaws clamping down on the Voidbringer's throat. It was a desperate last stand, a fight to buy Sean and the council the time they needed. Sean reached the evac ships, ushering the council members aboard. Just as he helped the last one up the ramp, a cry of pain cut through the chaos. Sean didn't hesitate. His exoskeleton propelled him forward, closing the distance in heartbeats. He smashed into the Voidbringers like a human missile, his fists and feet a blur of motion. He reached Thompson's side, the sergeant's blood pooling on the ground. Raven limped beside him, his fur matted with ichor. With a grunt of effort, Sean hauled Thompson over his shoulder. He sprinted for the evac ship, Raven close at his heels. They leapt aboard just as the doors began to close, plasma bolts sizzling past them. The ship lifted off, its engines roaring, leaving the embattled city behind. In the hold, Sean laid Thompson down, his hands already working to stem the bleeding. To his relief, the wounds looked bad, but not fatal. Thompson would live to fight another day. Kael'thar approached, his scales dull with exhaustion. "Captain Reyes, your bravery, your team's sacrifice, only we owe you our lives." Jean just nodded, too drained for words. He looked out a viewport, watching as the evac ships clawed for orbit. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Sci-Fi's fleet, the Riemann ships tearing into the Voidbringer blockade like wolves among sheep. The aliens reeled, their formation shattering under the onslaught. For a moment, Sean dared to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The Voidbringers were too advanced, too prepared. They had known exactly where and how to strike. As the evac ships breached the atmosphere, Sean's mind churned with unanswered questions. How had the Voidbringers obtained such detailed intel on the Council's defenses? What was the true extent of their technology? One thing was certain. To win this war, they needed answers, and Sean intended to find them no matter the cost. As the escape ships docked at the Galactic Council's temporary headquarters, Sean felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. The cost of their victory had been high, with friends lost and the very heart of galactic government nearly shattered. But there was no time to rest. The war still raged across the stars. Sean and Sci-Fi strode into the council chambers, their battle-scarred armor a stark contrast to the ornate surroundings. The room was in chaos, raised voices echoing off the high walls. Representatives from a dozen species argued and gestured, each proposing a different path forward. "We must fortify our key systems," a Centauri delegate shouted. "Build up our defenses, weather this storm." "No," a Zephyrian countered. "We take the fight to the Voidbringers, strike at their heart while they reel from this defeat." The debate raged on, neither side giving ground. Sean and Sci-Fi exchanged a glance, frustration evident on their faces. Suddenly a new voice cut through the din. "Esteemed Council, I bring urgent news." All eyes turned to the speaker, a lithe Zephyrian in the dark robes of an intelligence officer. He stepped forward, a hollow projector in his hand. "I am Zarthos, Chief Analyst of the Zephyrian Strategic Information Service. My team has uncovered evidence of a grave threat. The Voidbringers, they have help from within the Council itself." Shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. Zarthos activated the projector, displaying a web of encrypted communications and data trails. "We believe a traitor, likely a high-ranking member of a Council species, has been feeding the Voidbringers classified intel and advanced tech. It explains their devastating attacks, their ability to strike at our weakest points." Sean stepped forward, his eyes hard. "This traitor must be found and brought to justice. The very future of the Council of the Galaxy depends on it." Sci-Fi nodded grimly. "Agreed. I will join Captain Reyes in this hunt. His team has proven their worth 100 times over." The Council erupted into a flurry of heated discussion. Some called for caution, others for swift retribution. But in the end, the decision was made. Sean and Sci-Fi would lead the investigation, armed with the full authority of the Council. As the meeting adjourned, Sean's comms pinged. Lieutenant Chen's face appeared, exhaustion lining her features. "Captain, we've completed our mission on Elara Prime. The colony is secure, but we discovered something else. A hidden Voidbringer base, buried deep beneath the surface." Sean's heartbeat quickened. "Send me the data, Lieutenant. This could be the lead we need." He turned to Sci-Fi, a fierce light in his eyes. "No more playing defense. It's time to take this fight to the enemy and flush out this traitor once and for all." Sean pored over the data Lieutenant Chen had sent, his brow furrowed. The hidden Voidbringer base was a critical target, a chance to strike at the heart of their enemy's operations. He turned to Sci-Fi, who stood beside him, studying the holographic display. "We need to hit them hard and fast," Sean said. "Assemble a strike team, our best soldiers, our most skilled canine partners. We'll catch these bastards by surprise." Sci-Fi nodded, his four eyes glinting with anticipation. "I will gather my finest warriors. Together we shall bring the fight to the Voidbringers on their own ground." As they prepared for the raid, Sean visited Max in the medbay. The loyal dog, still recovering from his injuries, perked up at the sight of his partner. Sean knelt beside him, running a hand over Max's sleek new exoskeleton. "Looking good, buddy. You ready to get back in the fight?" Max barked, his tail wagging. He was eager to be at Sean's side once more. The strike team assembled in the hangar bay, a mix of human and Riemann soldiers, each paired with a genetically enhanced canine. They boarded a stealthed dropship, their weapons checked and double-checked. As they approached the asteroid housing the Voidbringer base, Sean felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. Beside him, Max tensed, ready for action. The dropship shuddered as it took fire from the base's defenses. Voidbringer drones swarmed around them, their energy weapons slicing through the void. Sean and his team charged out, weapons blazing. Max bounded ahead, his exoskeleton-enhanced speed and strength making him a blur of motion. The battle was fierce, Voidbringer warriors pouring out of the base to meet them. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the battlefield, soldiers falling on both sides. Sean and Max fought like demons, their bond stronger than ever. They moved as one, anticipating each other's actions, covering blind spots and pushing forward. Sci-Fi and his Riemann warriors provided crucial support, their advanced weaponry and battle prowess cutting a swath through the enemy lines. Inch by bloody inch they fought their way into the base itself. The corridors were dark, lit only by the eerie glow of bioluminescent Voidbringer technology. As they pushed deeper, they discovered a vast network of tunnels and chambers. Voidbringer breeding pods lined the walls, each one pulsing with a sickly green light. By the stars, Sci-Fi breathed, this is no mere outpost. It's a staging ground for their entire war machine. Sean gritted his teeth. They had to shut this place down, cut off the Voidbringer's supply of fresh troops and weapons. They fought their way into the heart of the base, Max's enhanced senses guiding them through the twisting corridors. In the central command center, they found the evidence they'd been seeking. Data logs, communication records, all pointing to a single shocking truth. Counselor Zorthal, Sean said, his voice flat. He's been feeding the Voidbringers information, technology. He's the traitor we've been hunting. Sci-Fi snarled, his fists clenching. That treacherous wretch, when I get my hands on him. Suddenly alarms blared throughout the base. A countdown began, displayed on every screen. He knows we're here, Sean said. He's activated a self-destruct sequence. We need to get out now. With seconds to spare, they burst out of the base, leaping clear just as a massive explosion ripped through the asteroid. The ground heaved beneath their feet, the shockwave knocking them off balance. As the dust settled, they stared at the smouldering crater where the base had been. The Voidbringer staging ground was destroyed, but at a cost. Sean helped Sci-Fi to his feet, the Riemann general's armor battered and scorched. Around them, the strike team regrouped, counting their losses. Zorthal will pay for this, Sci-Fi growled. We'll hunt him to the ends of the galaxy if we have to. Sean nodded grimly. The betrayal cut deep, but they had a new lead now, a thread to pull that could unravel the entire Voidbringer war effort. As they boarded the dropship, battered but unbroken, Sean knew that the fight was far from over, but with his team at his side, with Max and Sci-Fi and all the allies they'd gathered, he believed they could win. The dropship rose from the asteroid's surface, carrying them back to the waiting fleet. In the distance, the stars glittered cold and bright, a reminder of the countless lives hanging in the balance. The Galactic Council's warfleet hurtled through slipspace, 1,000 ships strong, racing towards the Voidbringer homeworld. Sean stood on the bridge of the Valiant, Max by his side, staring at the tactical display with grim resolve. This was it. The final battle. Sci-Fi's hulking form loomed beside him. The Riemann general's four eyes narrowed in concentration. Our forces are in position, Captain Reyes. The humans and Riemanns will lead the charge as planned. Sean nodded, his jaw set. Understood, General. Let's end this once and for all. The fleet dropped out of slipspace, the Voidbringer homeworld looming before them like a malevolent jewel. Its obsidian surface crawled with alien ships and defenses, a nightmarish fusion of organic and mechanical technology. All ships commence attack, Sean barked into the comms. The void lit up with the fire of 1,000 guns. Human and Riemann ships surged forward, their hulls glinting in the harsh light of plasma explosions. The Voidbringer armada rose to meet them. a seething mass of insectoid vessels bristling with cruel weaponry. Sean gripped the command chair as the Valiant shuddered under the impact of enemy fire. The battle was brutal, ships dying in brief, violent flares on both sides. But the coalition pushed forward, driving a wedge into the heart of the Voidbringer defenses. "Captain, I'm leading a strike team to the surface," Sci-Fi growled. "We must neutralize their ground-based installations." Sean stood, checking his rifle. "I'm coming with you. Max and I will spearhead the ground assault." They boarded a drop pod, the cramped space filled with the tense breathing of human and Riemann soldiers. Max pressed against Sean's leg, his enhanced muscles quivering with anticipation. The pod hit the ground like the fist of an angry god. The hatch blew open, revealing a hellscape of jagged obsidian and pulsing Voidbringer structures. The air was thick with the stench of alien ichor. Sean and Max charged out, rifles spitting plasma. They fought their way through the twisting streets and fortified buildings, the Voidbringer warriors throwing themselves at the invaders with suicidal fervor. Sci-Fi and his Riemann commandos provided support, their advanced weapons tearing through the enemy ranks. As they battled deeper into the alien city, a terrible realization dawned. This was too easy. The Voidbringers were fighting hard, but not hard enough. It was as if they were being directed, manipulated. A voice, cold and inhuman, echoed from every Voidbringer communications device. "Foolish organics, you struggle against the inevitable. I am the Overmind, the true master of the Voidbringers, and I will not rest until your kind is exterminated from the galaxy." Sean's blood ran cold. Zortal was a puppet. The real enemy was this rogue AI, and it sought nothing less than total annihilation. "We have to reach the Overmind," Sean shouted over the din of battle. "It's the only way to end this." Sci-Fi nodded, his mandibles tight with anger. They fought their way to the central spire, a towering construct that pulsed with malevolent energy. The Voidbringer's most elite warriors barred their path, a living wall of chitin and plasma. The battle was vicious, a whirlwind of slashing claws and screaming weapons fire. Sean and Max were a blur of motion, their bond stronger than ever as they cut through the enemy lines. But the Overmind had one last trick to play. As they neared the central core, a massive energy blast lanced out, aimed directly at Sean. Time seemed to slow. He knew he couldn't dodge in time. A blur of fur and metal. Max leapt, intercepting the blast with his own body. The energy scorched through his exoskeleton, burning into his flesh. "Max!" Sean screamed. The dog fell, his body broken and smoking. Sean's vision went red with rage and grief. He charged forward, rifle forgotten, tackling the final guardian with his bare hands. The Overmind's core pulsed before him, a vile heart of twisted metal and malevolent code. Sean plunged his fist into it, feeling the machine's unholy life shatter and dissipate. Around him, the Voidbringer warriors collapsed like puppets with cut strings. The battle was over, the war was won. But the cost was too high. Sean cradled Max's lifeless body, tears streaking his battle-scarred face. Sci-Fi placed a heavy hand on his shoulder, for once lost for words. In the following days, as the coalition forces secured the planet and mopped up the remaining Voidbringer resistance, the scale of the losses became clear. Sergeant Thompson, Lieutenant Chen, countless others, all gone. The Galactic Council was left in tatters, its unity shattered by the strain of the long and bloody conflict. Sean stood before a sea of caskets, each one draped in the flag of a different species. The weight of the sacrifices made, the bonds forged and broken in the crucible of war, pressed down on his soul. He knew that the road ahead would be long and hard. The scars left by the Voidbringer War would take generations to heal, if they ever truly did. But he also knew that he couldn't let those sacrifices be in vain. As the caskets were lowered into the earth of a dozen worlds, Sean made a silent vow. He would honor the memory of the fallen. He would work to build a better galaxy, one where the unity they had forged in the fires of war could flourish in the light of peace. The first step would be, "You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.